creepy relics of early 2000s Craigslist are completely unmatched. So back in the early 2000s, Craigslist was just this safe haven for some of the darkest fringes of society. It's the only way I can describe it. And just first off, we all know what a septic tank is, correct? They're very common, they have to be pumped, a lot of homes have them. So let's discuss the Alabama man who would pay you to go into yours. So his official ad says, "Some might judge me for this, but it's what I enjoy. I will pay you $150 an hour to bring my equipment in and gain access to your septic tank."
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do. Let me break it down for you guys, man. We check about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button. You guys help pushing us into the algorithm, man, so I appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers, man. Say it with me, y'all. Y'all know what we do. Let's seek the truth.
You guys remember the case of Lacey Fletcher, the woman who melted into her couch? Well, the people responsible for this have been sentenced. But let me remind you guys a little bit about 36-year-old Lacey. In 2022, she was found deceased on her family's couch, and apparently she sat there for 12 years without moving. So how exactly does that happen? Well, Lacey had severe autism and she was nonverbal, so she solely depended on her parents as her caregiver. But after years of neglect, she weighed less than 100 pounds. She was found covered in maggots at her own waist. And again, this is how the couch looked like when they found Lacey deceased. Lacey's cause of death was acute medical neglect, and ultimately her parents, Sheila and Clay Fletcher, were each sentenced this month to 40 years, but will only be serving 20 years in prison. Now, what's outrageous is that her parents, who went from this to this, testified that their daughter refused any medical attention. How can someone who couldn't communicate and completely relied on them refuse medical attention? A 36-year-old weighing less than 100 pounds. Let that sink in. This tragedy could have been prevented. There is no excuse.
Gross habits that are actually
man.
good for you. It's healthy for your stomach to burp after a meal because it means it's getting rid of excess air. When you bite your nails, you're actually consuming some of the bacteria under your fingernail. As a result, your immune system begins producing white blood cells, which fights against bacteria. Children who bite their nails or suck on their thumb are less likely to develop allergies, according to research. Before the last one, I just found this super addicting game that you'll never want to get rid of. You build your own kingdom and destroy others, and you can get it right here. Showering strips your skin of its essential oils, which is necessary to keep it hydrated and protected. So it's okay to go without showering for a day or two.
Seekers, tell me if y'all. I know y'all been seeing it in the freaking in the social media spheres, where like there's been a lot of freaking celebrities talking about how they really don't be showering at all, or like they only do it like I guess like once a week or something like that. Please tell me y'all don't follow that, bro. Don't be funky, seekers.
Secret rooms hidden in famous locations. In the Statue of Liberty, there's a small room hidden inside the torch. But no one can enter inside because it was damaged by the Germans in 1916. And although it was repaired, they still don't allow anyone inside just as a safety precaution. Mount Rushmore is famous for the 4 sculpted faces of the previous American presidents. But behind them is a secret vault. And inside is the secret Krabby Patty formula. Just kidding, they keep historical documents back there. Like the Declaration of Independence, and the biography of the sculpture, and the history of construction, but no one can access them. Inside Big Ben, there's a secret room by the bell tower. Although it's no longer in use, it used to be a prison for people who breached the code of conduct. And I have no idea what that means. But before I show you the coolest one, I just found this game that you'll never want to get rid of. Build your own fortress and attack other people, and you can get it right here. The Tower of London is one of the most famous fortresses in the world. Underneath it is a pub that you can only get invited to by one of the other members.
What is the dumbest reason you can think of somebody committing a crime? I'm about to one-up your thought right now.
This man from Pennsylvania behind me named Benjamin Gowell killed his girlfriend because he didn't like her haircut. And just because he didn't like her haircut, he stabbed her to death. This happened on Sunday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. in East Hempfield, Pennsylvania. Police were called, the EMTs transported 2 people out, and 1 person was pronounced dead at the scene, so there was 3 people involved here. The victim was Carmen Martinez Silva. Her brother was also present there. I'm assuming he tried to fight the suspect, her boyfriend, off. Her brother would get stabbed in the skull, and Carmen would be pronounced dead at the scene. They found Benjamin Gowell's kitchen knife in his car. Apparently Carmen was a little fearful of Gowell, so she went over to her daughter's place. Her daughter gave her a haircut, and that just infuriated him for some reason. She was scared to go back, so she went to her brother's place. That's when she informed him she would like to end the relationship because he was being crazy. He knocked on the brother's door. The brother told him she is not here. He came back a few minutes later with a knife, stabbed him, broke through the house, and then stabbed her multiple times. This is all over a haircut. A haircut's the thing that apparently sent this guy over the edge. Now he has 3 counts of aggravated assault, a homicide count, an attempted homicide count, and a bunch of reckless endangering counts. Obviously, with his girlfriend dying now, he will probably be getting life in prison. That's a first-degree murder right there.
Over a damn haircut, really? That has to be one of the most dumbest crimes we've heard yet. People, man, be doing the most stupidest things for no reason. Life in prison for a haircut.
You have to hear this. An Uber driver claims that he actually picked up a group of ghosts. A man in Savannah, Georgia, a town that is well known for its paranormal activity, says that he used to work for a car service. One night, the man whose name is William was sent to pick up 3 ladies from Foley House, a historic bed and breakfast in the heart of the city. When he got there, he saw 3 women dressed up in what he described as Southern Belle outfits. He said that he picked them up and they got in the cab. They were going to Elizabeth on 37th Street. He said that they were all chatting and laughing in the back seat, and he was having a good time just cruising. Williams said that when he got to the destination, he turned around and said, "Ma'am, your fare is going to be such and such." But shockingly, there was nobody else in the cab. He called his boss to tell him the unexplainable story, but before he could begin, his boss grew angry, asking him if he had picked up the 3 ladies from the Foley House. He said that he did, but there was nobody in the cab. To this day, William believes that he picked up 3 ghosts instead of the paying customers that had requested the ride.
Islands on Earth that if you
Ghost
go to,
Uber?
you will die. Up first is North Sentinel Island. It is home to the Sentinelese tribe. Those who go never make it out alive. Next is Spider Island. It's home to most of the biggest and deadliest spiders in the world. And trust me, these can definitely kill you. Next is Monkey Island. You've probably never heard of this, but this is a remote island in Puerto Rico, and it's home to some of the deadliest monkeys in the world. All the monkeys on this island carry one of the most lethal infections in the world. Finally, and this is probably the worst one, Reunion Island. The surrounding waters are completely overrun by sharks, and the population keeps increasing rapidly. In total, there have been 50 shark attacks at this island.
And people still go there? Monkey Island, Spider Island, Shark Island. It's like, pick your poison. Which one do you want to go? Which one you want to go to? If you had to choose out of all those 3, what would you pick, man? Or you think you can survive on? I want to know.
Creepy relics of early 2000s Craigslist are completely unmatched. So back in the early 2000s, Craigslist was just this safe haven for some of the darkest fringes of society. It's the only way I can describe it. And just first off, we all know what a septic tank is, correct? They're very common, they have to be pumped, a lot of homes have them. So let's discuss the Alabama man who would pay you to go into yours. So his official ad says, "Some might judge me for this, but it's what I enjoy. I will pay you $150 an hour to bring my equipment in and gain access to your septic tank. I then have my associate close the tank. After I set up my tripod and camera up, believe it or not, it's a great place to reflect." And very unsurprisingly, not long after, a lot of videos leaked on LiveLeak of what was known as Septic Tank Man. And absolutely, the videos are shocking, but I think the more shocking part is how long ago this was, and that nobody has ever identified who this man really was in Alabama.
The absolute scariest moments captured on
Insane.
camera. This eye-wrenching footage recorded on the 12th of January 2021 shows a group of people in a boat when a massive iceberg collapses. When When the iceberg collapsed, it made a terrifying wave that was over 30 feet high.
Damn.
The group of people in the boat try to get away as fast as they can as this monstrous wave follows them. Thankfully, they get away safely just in time. That wave could have easily wiped them out.
They could have. Yeah, they hit the jets on that boat, bro. Full drive. Man, pictures, like I said, they tell a story. You never know, man. At the right moment, it could be your last moment, bro.
Kids with Real Superpowers Part 1. This kid, whose name is this one, I don't know how to pronounce it, and he's called the Cat Boy because he can see in the dark. As you can see, he has very bright blue eyes, and when he was seen by the doctors and asked many questions, they ended up in the conclusion that he can see in the dark. But there are a lot of people who claim that this is fake. Do you believe it's true or not?
When they entered the
True.
apartment, what they found was disturbing. The first thing that they saw was a skinny 4-year-old Benji with 2 big black eyes. But not just that, Benji had bruises all over his body. He also had an injury in his ear, and because of that, he had a gauze just like sticking out of his ear. The officer said that he was very skinny and did not look like a normal 4-year-old. When they asked why did Benji have all these injuries, Miranda and Brandon said that he had behavioral issues and that he would do this to himself. They said that he had a habit of constantly poking his eyes and ears, and that's why it caused those injuries. Then officers decided to bring Benji alone into the bathroom, and they asked him again, "What happened to you?" Benji said the same thing his parents said and told the officers that he did it to himself and that he poked at his eyes and ears. But when you watch the video, it doesn't sound genuine, and it kind of sounds like Benji was rehearsed and told to say that. They had locks on their fridge, on their kitchen cabinets, and everywhere where there was food. They also noticed a lot of cameras set up in the apartment, especially in the kitchen. From their point of view, it just looked a little bit odd. Why are there so many locks and why is there cameras everywhere? Now, they retrieved all these cameras and began looking at all the footage, and I was not prepared to see what I saw. I think this was one of the saddest videos I've seen in a while. Watching how this boy would sneak out of his room in the middle of the night to look for food, it literally broke my heart. It was said that before Miranda moved into the home, Benji was able to just go in and out of the cabinets and fridge and get whatever he wanted. But then these locks were added and it became more difficult for Benji to get food.
These identical twin sisters were pure evil. In 1952, in the quiet town of Eldridge, there were 2 identical twin sisters, Emily and Evelyn. On the surface, they appeared to be normal, sweet girls, but beneath that, they hid a sinister nature. A new girl named Clara moved into town, quickly gaining popularity, which angered the twins. The attention shifted away from them, and they grew envious. One evening, they invited Clara to a secret gathering in the woods, promising her a magical experience. The next morning, Clara was nowhere to be found. The town buzzed with rumors, but no one had proof of what happened. Weeks later, the twins' mother, Lorraine, overheard a disturbing conversation while passing by their room. She pressed her ear to the door and heard the chilling words, "We need another one." Clara wasn't enough. Horrified, Lorraine burst into the room, but it was empty. On the twins' beds, she found 2 dolls, identical to her daughters, and a 3rd doll with Clara's face. The twins were never seen again. Some say they still wander the forests, waiting to claim their next victim.
What do you guys think? Is that like a creepy folklore story? Because there'd be some realism to that. I think that's a folklore to me. I think that we heard a folklore story right there. But there's a
These are the scariest serial killers from each state, part 1. Up first is Nanny Doss from Alabama, also known as the Giggling Granny. She married 5 times and murdered 4 of her husbands, and the only one that survived was her first husband. She also poisoned 11 of her family members. Her first 2 victims were her children, who allegedly died from food poisoning. She got the nickname the Giggling Granny because she would always laugh at the crime she committed. She killed 11 people and is definitely the scariest serial killer from Alabama.
You telling me it's her own daughters?
As of right now, this is definitely in my top 10, absolutely top 5. It is easily one of the most uniquely effective horror movies. This movie is about a woman named Ella who is a stop-motion animator working with her mother. And when the mother becomes hospitalized, it is up to Ella to finish her mother's vision, which Ella doesn't really want to do. And with the help of this random little girl from down the hallway, Ella tries to create a film like no other. However, when the world of reality and the world of stop motion start to really bleed together, it's going to make you wonder for the entire runtime of the movie, what is real? Now, in my opinion, I absolutely loved this movie. I don't know if the director is a genius or accidentally one, because everything in this movie just somehow works, and it works without answering all of your questions. It is a very dreamlike and ethereal type movie, so from the start, you're kind of questioning about everything, which some people are going to love and some people are really not going to like. And it goes without saying, the stop motion animation in this is perfectly creepy. If you've seen any of the previous works of the director, take the weirdness and tone of that and put it into a movie. Now, as far as like what type of scares to be prepared for in this movie, it's a good mix of a lot of different things. A handful of jump scares here and there, but what it's really effective is when the purpose of the movie is just to solely creep you out. But a warning to the squeamish, there are a couple of body horror scenes that can be kind of rough. They're extraordinarily well done. Just keep that in mind towards the end. Now, stop motion has a very limited run in theaters. Hopefully there's more showings in the future. But the good news is stop motion will be streaming on Shudder on May 31st. If you've seen this movie, what do you guys think?
What if I told you the mother behind me was feeding her sons to cannibals? Behind me is Clara Marova. She's from the Czech Republic and she had 2 sons, Jacob and Andrej. Her and her sister were part of this weird cult called the Grail movement. They believed by doing good deeds that they would go to heaven. Now here's where it gets dangerous. This cult also believed that they were free to commit any crimes they wanted to and nothing would affect them. And they were also cannibals. Things now got even stranger when her sister showed up with an adopted Norwegian child named Annika. She was 13 years old. Some people believe she was actually 30 and posing as a child. She was in a trafficking ring and had a lot of sympathy for her. Soon, Clara started to forget about her sons and started thinking about adopting Annika as her own. That's when this weird doctor started emailing and texting her out of nowhere. He claimed to be Annika's physician. She met up with him, he showed her her medical records, he gained her trust. The doctor said to Clara that you cannot adopt Annika because her sons are so mean to her. This was the doctor's plan all along as a cult leader. You guys remember that cult I was talking about at the beginning of the video? The doctor is like the head of this cult. He said to fix this, she needs to beat her boys as much as she can, for every little thing, and she fell for it. This was to cure their evil spirits. The doctor said these treatments are not working now. You need to take them to a cottage very far off from everyone else. She met up there were several people there, including her sister and Annika's brother. The boys were put in cages and tortured in every single way you could think possible. People there started to skin the boys and eat their flesh. They also made the boys eat their own flesh as well. And Annika, the 13-year-old, she kept saying the boys were still being mean to her to continue this abusive cycle. She was also part of that cult and she was not 13. The whole cottage shock therapy ended and they went back home. The boys were treated the exact same back home though by their mother Clara. They were put in a cellar and locked up in there. Annika was living life in a room with a ton of toys and got everything she wanted. She was basically manipulating Clara this entire time. Now here's the way that she got caught and it is crazy. Her neighbor was setting up a baby monitor for his newborn baby. Now, back in like the early 2000s, if you had a baby monitor nearby, it could pick up that signal and you could see what's in there. It could jam a little bit. He managed to see these boys tied up in cages in her basement. Could you imagine the horrifying look he had on his face seeing this? And he did what every good person would do. He called the police immediately to get them some help. The police came, everybody was arrested. Clara, her sister, and Annika. And it turns out Annika was a 33-year-old woman. Her real name was Barbara Sklarova. This is a picture of Barbara Sklarova right here, aka Annika, and she was the basis for the movie Orphan. In case the story is sounding familiar, it's basically Orphan. The doctor was actually the father of that girl Annika, aka Barbara. And Clara's sister was in on this cult the entire time and manipulated her. They all got about 5 to 10 years in prison. This story definitely had the wildest turn of events I've read about.
5 to 10 years after all that? I never even knew Orphan was based off that. I've seen that picture before. That's how I saw the simulators. I'm like, there's always freaking truth behind those stories, man. In media, what we're seeing now. It's a
This is how you would survive if you were in a zombie apocalypse. It's Saturday, you're in your room watching Netflix, but alone though because you're single forever. All of a sudden you get an emergency alert on your phone. A zombie apocalypse is real and has just begun. The news report states that global warming melted a glacier that had ancient viruses in it. Those viruses spread like wildfire, giving humans erratic and aggressive behavior. The virus spreads by saliva, so it causes its host to bite uninfected humans, similar to rabies. To survive, the virus feeds on your flesh, slowly deteriorating anybody it infects. 1 minute into the zombie apocalypse, you start to panic, still processing what's going on, what you just saw. You call and check on all your family members, but you don't go to their homes because anybody can be infected and you're afraid. 3 minutes in, you calm yourself down. Lock your doors and windows, and think about running to the gun store for protection, and the supermarket to get food and supply. But you decide not to, because remember, where there are people, there are zombies. 20 minutes in, you realize you can't do this alone. You won't survive without a good crew. After all, teamwork makes the dream work. You call your loyal friends, families, anyone you know that can join your crew. 46 minutes in, you start thinking strategically. You wear all your leather clothes so that if a zombie tries to bite you, it's harder for him to get through. You leave your car because eventually it'll run out. It'll need gas. So you grab your bike instead. Plus a car makes too much noise anyway. 3 hours later, you and your crew are finally all together. You're safer this way. The first plan of action is to get out of the city. It's crowded with people who can potentially be zombies. So you need to go to a more secluded area. You and the crew decide to go north, where the temperature is much more colder and can potentially make the zombies move a little slower. 2 days in, on your way out of the city, zombies attack. One of your crew members gets bitten. They tell you to take them out before they turn into a monster. You don't want to, but sadly you honor your friend's wishes and continue on. 3 days in, you guys are now living in a cabin you found in the woods. You don't have much supplies, so you and 2 of your crew members volunteer to go get some. All you have is a knife for protection. You guys find a local store 30 minutes away and grab everything you need. All of a sudden, zombies come running in. One jumps on your back before you can even react and tries biting you, but the leather jacket you have on protects you. Thank God he couldn't get through. You use the knife you have and take him out. You and your crew hop on the bikes to get away, but sadly one of your members get devoured. 5 days in, you can't stay in this cabin hideout anymore. It's surrounded by zombies. More and more zombies are starting to appear in the area. You and the crew decide that it's actually time to pack up and head out. You need better protection, so y'all find a local abandoned building. It's made of bricks, so this should be a little more safer. You block off all the entrances you can find. You need to recharge, so you all rest while switching shifts, being the lookout. 10 days in. It's only been 10 days, but it feels like forever. You manage to get more supplies more wisely this time. These supplies will keep you alive for days. You get non-perishables, like rice, canned food, beans,
Stack
and
up.
oatmeal. 1 month in. The area is swarming with zombies. You can't stay in this building any longer. You and the crew head to the docks to find a boat to travel in. It'll be safer this way because zombies can't swim. Finally, you guys find one and can sail to a new location. You guys jump off the boat to go find food. You have hunting and fishing gear. While hunting, all of a sudden you hear a loud roar. It's a bear. Not only a bear though, it's a zombie bear. The virus is now spreading to animals. You and the crew make a run for it, back to the boat. 4 months in, you got no more food and the crew is starving. It's only 3 of you left and you're stuck on the boat. The engine will no longer start. It's out of gas. Zombie animals and people are surrounding the area. You pray, and you guys listen to the radio to figure out if there's any good news or any updates. Everything just seems hopeless. 4 months and 8 days in. This is it. You've lost hope. You and your friends are done for. There's only 3 of you. But you want to live. You don't want to die, but you're starving. You have no other choice but to eat your friends.
Oh, man.
1 year in. You finally stay in a fort you built, but zombies are surrounding it. Luckily, you were smart enough to build traps all around. You sneak through an underground tunnel which leads to the backyard where you can escape. Just in time before they got in your fort. 1.5 years in. You're on the radio and you discover there's a colony that survived. They're looking for other survivors. You send an SOS immediately. It won't be long before you are noticed and possibly eaten by zombies. You are on your last leg. No food, no water, no shelter. You barely have strength to walk. You start to lose all hope. All of this was for nothing. But then you hear a helicopter up above. It's the survival colony you sent the SOS to. They rescue you and you survive. But is this finally the end or just the beginning?
This is the most dangerous apple in the world. So dangerous that its name in Spanish is Manzanilla de la Muerte, which translates to little apple of death. This is the manchineal tree, and it's widely considered to be the most toxic tree on the planet. And it's all because of a milky white sap coated in toxins that can cause the skin to blister on impact. And this sap is found in every part of the tree. The leaves, the fruit, the bark, every aspect of this tree has the ability to decrease your quality of life. It's so toxic that if you don't even touch it but stand under the tree while it's raining, all it takes are a couple raindrops with white sap to burn your skin. And speaking of burning, if you torch your tree and try to return shipment to Satan, the smoke can irritate the eyes to the point of temporary blindness. And you can probably imagine what would happen if you inhale it. The fruit might just be the worst part. In 1999, radiologist Nicola Strickland unknowingly ate the apple, and while she didn't retire from breathing, she came really close. The burning sensation and painful tightening of her throat nearly made her suffocate off rip. The pain lasted over 8 hours, and she eventually had to get the lymph nodes in her neck drained. And if you happen to find one in your Florida backyard, yeah, you can find them in Florida. Y'all are hell with no income tax. You can't cut them down, because they're in danger. You'd be like suplexing a panda. And since they help prevent beach erosion and protect mangroves, if you got rid of all of them, Florida just might go underwater. The more you know.
Don't eat apples in Florida, man. Confirmed. What the hell? Damn. That tree just sounds like instant KO.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 24. There's been multiple cases of people actually being eaten alive by an escalator. If you like to eat cereal, there's a 21 to 38% chance that you're also eating an Icarus mite. Supposedly, if you have Sanpaku eyes, meaning that there's white below your iris, it actually means that you're supposed to die young. Every time you feel very aggressive, your brain is set to kill for a few seconds. So in that 1 second, you could kill a human being. When getting laser eye surgery, you can actually smell the parts of your eyes being shaved down by the lasers. If you're a male, after you die, your loved ones can have a doctor electrocute your prostate, forcing you to ejaculate for your sperm. Female dragonflies often fake their own death to prevent rape. If you ever get burned by electricity, it will leave burn marks shaped like lightning on your skin. Many pets actually die because their owner dies unexpectedly and nobody comes in to check in on them in time.
That's sad, man. Ghost Town? Found some ancient civilizations underwater.
The absolute worst ways people have died, part 3. A guy jumped in a boiling geyser to save his dog. When they pulled him out, he had 3rd-degree burns all over his body while he was still alive and conscious. Moments later, he died watching his dog dying the same way. At the Grand Canyon, a woman jumped trying to commit suicide. She survived because she hit a ledge that wasn't quite far enough, and she had to crawl until she could find another edge to finish what she started.
Oh.
Facts that will definitely make your skin crawl, part 2.
Let's talk about it.
There's more of a chance of you finding a dead body underneath your bed than actually finding it in the garbage. If you ever plug your nose during a sneeze, you can actually rupture a blood vessel in your neck or your brain and it'll cause you to bleed to death. The electric chair was actually invented by a dentist. If a black cat looks at you and runs, it usually means something is about to happen to you, usually being pretty bad.
Yeah, but I've seen some black cats in my day, man. I try to look the other way every single time I see one, bro. It's like 90% infested with cats, so I see him, man. Just look away. I pretend I don't even see it, man.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Being buried alive accidentally occurred so often that people invented safety coffins. In the Middle Ages, people used to eat mummies for medical purposes. It's the main reason we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, there are more vacant homes than homeless people. Did you know that the actress Glenn Close was raised in a cult? The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used to have real skeletons as props. In 1976, a TV crew realized one of the hanging bodies in the Laugh in the Dark ride was indeed a real body by accidentally breaking it. Women in the 18th century used lead as makeup. This is the first chainsaw. It was invented by 2 Scottish doctors. And, it was invented for childbirth. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 4.
Whose great idea was it to invent a chainsaw for childbirth, man? I wonder what
disturbing
mom
facts
process you
that
have to
will
do
ruin your life.
to do that.
Coconuts kill more people than sharks every year. Same with cows. vending machines are actually twice as likely to kill you than a shark is.
How?
France was still executing people via guillotine when the first Star Wars film came out. There are more fake flamingos in the world than real ones. There are more tigers in Texas than the rest of the world. There's enough iron in your body to make a 3-inch nail. Beethoven and George Washington were alive at the same time. In fact, George Washington was in his 40s when Beethoven was born. There are more stars in space than there are grains of sand on every beach on Earth. It rains diamonds on Saturn and Jupiter. A buttload is an actual unit of measurement, equivalent to 126 gallons. Hit the plus sign if you want to learn more facts.
I think the thing that's most shocking to me is that there's a lot of freaking tigers in Texas, bro. I just instantly thought of that meme. What the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? What the hell's going on in Texas, man? They got a freaking tiger epidemic. You gotta be careful.
Bone-chilling facts you wish you never knew. Part 4. Cannibals find the palm of the hand the tastiest. There is a lake that never gives up the dead. The bottom of the Lake Superior is cold enough that the dead bodies just remain, so they don't become skeletons and they are pretty creepy. In 1975, the CIA had a heart attack gun. It's a weapon that shoots a small poisonous dart which causes a heart attack. It can penetrate clothes and leave nothing but a red dot. Just imagine what they could be hiding now.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 17. There's an 8-year-old boy named Amarjit Sada who became the world's youngest serial killer after murdering his 6-year-old cousin, his baby sister, and a neighbor's newborn daughter. The CIA has a legitimate heart attack gun, and it was exposed to the public in the late 1970s. Project Sunshine was research conducted by the US government in which after the atomic bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a network of agents was recruited to locate recently deceased children and steal their body parts for testing on radiation. Both the US and Russia used dolphins and whales to spy on various countries. The FBI sent an anonymous letter to Martin Luther King Jr. telling him to kill himself. It reads, "King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is." Guys, I just released my first YouTube video. I'm sure you'll love it. Link in bio.
Now don't be fooled by this photo, because this story is called The Demon Dog. For the short term they knew him, they called him Shanks. So if you haven't guessed it yet, Shanks is an American pit bull. But ever since Mark found Shanks, there was just something off. See, Shanks was fit, tough, and a very strong looking dog. But when you looked into his eyes, there was something evil that wanted to get out. But Shanks was a stray. He was found covered in blood months ago. The vet said that it was blood from a carcass or something that he had eaten to try and survive. But after we saw Shanks attack Robin Woolman while she was hanging out her washing, we knew it wasn't for survival. You see, Robin was 8 months pregnant when Shanks hunted her down and attacked her. Police said that they couldn't even recognize her once he'd finished ripping her apart. And unfortunately, neither her or her unborn baby survived. Since he ran away that day, 3 of his past owners have stepped forward, all with gruesome stories about Shanks. And all have refused to describe to police what he looks like, because he still stalks.
Shanks. Yeah, that does sound like the demon dog, man. Sometimes, you know, it's the environment those dogs that come up in, they become violent. So what did he experience that made him turn into that, man? Whew.
One of the world's scariest animals just got a whole lot scarier, and Planet of the Apes is slowly becoming non-fiction. Because apparently chimpanzees are out here murking gorillas. Scientists in 2021 witnessed a troop of chimpanzees basically jumping a family of gorillas. And when I say gang, we're talking about almost 30 chimps pressing a family of 5. Keep in mind a silverback can weigh up to 400 pounds and could probably bench press your car. And according to witnesses, the silverback was eating chimps left and right like they were paper mache. But eventually the chimps overwhelmed the bigger silverback and even kidnapped a baby gorilla. I'm not going to tell you exactly what they did, but that family of 5 became a party of 4. And it wasn't even the last time. Because later that year, scientists watched the same group of chimpanzees do the same exact thing. Square up with a family of gorillas, kidnap the baby, and erase its name from the gorilla census. And it's not like we didn't know chimps were about that. They often hunt bush babies and vervet monkeys, and we've even seen them use weapons like spears to do it. But it's one thing to hunt something that weighs like 5 Skittles. Going gorillas is another tier of Black Air Force activity.
Yes, it
Which
is.
is why I'd rather be locked in a room with a jaguar than a chimp. Because at least a jaguar gonna make it quick.
Really? Jaguar or chimp, man? What did I choose?
Disney World facts and incidents that are a lot darker than you could imagine. And if you guys are loving Creep Time and you want even more content, make sure to check out my Instagram right in the bio. Disney World is known for quite a few high-profile deaths, most of which they have done a great job of covering up. But none quite as quickly as when an off-duty cast member accidentally fell to his death off Disney's contemporary resort onto the monorail. Within just 3 hours, Disney had completely cleaned it up and just resumed operations. In 1981, the case went to court when parents claimed that an actor at the park who played Winnie the Pooh had slapped their daughter. But this cast member insisted that this was just a case of turning around and accidentally knocking a little girl over, and actually proved this to a jury in court by repeating the incident while dressed in costume. In the early 70s, at an attraction known as the Carousel of Progress, in which the stage rotates a full 360, the attendant who was 18 was crushed between the stage and the wall. Even more chilling, there is an audio recording that exists of this exact incident.
I think the thing that got to me is when they said, like, Disney, they just freaking, the monorail, they just freaking cleaned that up. He said 3 hours and they just resumed the day, acting like everything was normal, man. One of the biggest corporations in the world, and you know, they can't let that money flow stop. But not even a day, or even a couple of hours, they just, like it was just a regular day, man. That's scary.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. You have me at fine. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime.
Okay.
Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
How the hell do people not see those in those photos, man, when they taking the pictures?
Survive until sunrise in the real Conjuring house. Say hello to Annabelle. Go in the basement, alone. Visit the bent neck lady. Say hello to Father John. Watch out for Valid. What was that? A haunted well. Seance with me. Snakes.
What the hell? I couldn't survive in that for a day. Nope. I don't even need to be around that energy. I got it. Whoever do that, I saw some brave shows who can survive in that house for a whole day. It's an edit, man.
Frank Selak, known as the luckiest unlucky man that has lived, seemed to have a superpower of surviving everything life and death threw at him. In January 1962, Frank boarded a train that was suddenly derailed. The train plunged into an icy river. While 17 other passengers drowned, Frank survived the fall and swam ashore with a broken arm and hypothermia. A year later, while on his first and only plane ride flying from Zagreb to Rijeka, the back door blasted open, sucking everyone into the sky, killing 19 people. Amazingly, Frank landed on a haystack with only minor scratches. 4 years later, Frank boarded a transport bus. The bus skidded and plunged into a river, sinking all the way down. Yet again, Frank survived the fall and swam to the surface, then to the shore with a few cuts and bruises. In 1970, Frank was driving his car when an engine failure ignited the fuel tank, bursting the car into flames. Frank jumped out of the vehicle just before it exploded. A few years later, the same thing happened with his new car. While his hair was completely singed, Frank otherwise exited the vehicle safely. In 1995, he was hit by a city bus and then again by a truck. He survived that freak accident too. In 1996, he was involved in a head-on collision on a mountain curve. Frank was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected out of the car, clinging to a tree branch as he watched his vehicle fall 300 feet. 2 days after his 73rd birthday, Frank won the lottery for $1.1 million. At the time of his win, he also married for the 5th time.
These are facts that...
I'm good, but he got a happy ending, bro, because it just seemed like life was just throwing this massive curveballs at him, man. And he was like doing the Neo Matrix joint, just dodging them, bro. And he finally got a win, man. Could you imagine, like, this freaking event after event after event? I wouldn't even want to freaking leave the damn house. And they safe for him. At least he got the 1 mil, man, so I'm happy for him. He needed that.
Skin crawl, part 1. Up first, did you know that women can actually give birth after death? It's extremely rare, but it's called coffin birth. Up next, everybody has definitely heard of the 5-second rule and probably applied it in your life at least once. But did you know in those 5 seconds, Minor insects can still crawl on your food after you drop it on the floor, pick it up, and then eat it. Up next, if a black cat looks at you and then suddenly runs away, it means that something unusual is about to happen to you. So if this happened to you recently, then I recommend just staying in your room and not leaving. Finally, did you know that a cockroach can live 9 days without its head before it starves to death? This is absolutely crazy, and as weird as this sounds, I have to see it to believe it.
You too. 9 days without his head?
Most dangerous tourist spots, part 1.
Alright.
Devil's Pool. This pool takes you inches from the 350-foot waterfall. It is located at Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. Getting to the pool is hard. You have to fight the strong current of the river. And there are also hippos and crocodiles that lurk in the river. Tourists are only allowed to go to Devil's Pool between August and January because for the rest of the year, the strong currents make it impossible to survive.
I've seen the people post for pictures. I would never do that.
Facts, Part 1. After losing her newborn baby, a 24-year-old mom named Ashley Hammock decided to add a sandbox to her grave so that her older son could still play with him. It wasn't until 1914 that it became illegal to mail children. In 2008, a Brazil priest would decide to strap 1,000 balloons to his lawn chair and take off. It wasn't until months later that the lower part of his body would be found floating in the ocean.
The lower part? What happened?
Scariest interviews with serial killers. Serial killer John Hughes. John Hughes was convicted of 15 murders and sentenced to life in prison in 2010. When he was interviewed and asked if he would kill again, he said this.
Because you'd kill again.
More than positive. I got different thoughts. Then he was asked if he felt bad for the murders he had committed, and this is what he said.
You don't feel bad about killing anyone?
Not personally, that I've personally done myself, no.
Why?
Wrong place, wrong time. Follow for more.
People with no remorse, man. One of the most dangerous people alive. You just witnessed that firsthand. He had no remorse. He said wrong place, wrong. Nah. That's an edit, man.
They had to yell at the actors to stop eating the crap in between takes of the human centipede because the prop masters made it taste so good. It was a mixture of coconut oil and chocolate. A very large number of actresses actually walked out of the audition the second they saw these drawings. The only way the director was able to get investors in on the movie was to be a little deceitful about what was actually happening. He told investors it was about 3 people being surgically connected together, but he didn't say how they were being connected. The movie makes it seem like this house is in the middle of nowhere, but in reality, this house was just in a regular neighborhood. And during the feeding scene of the human centipede, many neighbors were actually peeking over the fences and were completely disgusted by what they saw. The actors were given hardened silicone underwear with rubber bits to bite on, that way it actually looked like they were connected to each other's butts. Dieter Laser, rest in peace, the man who played the crazy scientist in the human centipede, insisted on being naked for the pool scene. The actresses thought this was really sweet and an act of solidarity because they had to be naked themselves for 90% of the movie. But Dieter Laser said he wanted to be nude because he is a method actor, and this doctor would see the human centipede as nothing more than a pet, and you wouldn't blush at being naked in front of your pet. All of the actors who were involved in the human centipede got massages at the end of every film day for having to be on their knees all day long.
Terrifying facts you never knew.
I ain't never watching that movie.
Right now, and some of you have up to 10 million on your mattress, but you have no clue. You see, they love dead skin and warm bedding, making your bed the perfect home to start a huge family. Cavities are contagious and can be spread by kissing or sharing food. Speaking of food, I have a mud pie. Oh, yeah, baby. And don't get me started about these Reuben balls. Ooh. Now this tastes like your mama's booty. This is how fast the Titan submarine got crushed. It takes our brains 100 milliseconds to process pain. It takes our eyes 13 milliseconds to process visually. When the Titan submarine imploded, the pressure was so great, it got crushed in 1 millisecond, meaning they didn't feel or see a thing. It was just lights out. Again, your mama's booty. Sometimes an Amber Alert caused the kidnapper to panic and kill the child immediately. A woman named Jules Sherpin wanted to be blind ever since she was the age of 6. She felt her life wouldn't be complete unless she was actually blind. So in 2006, she poured drain cleaner in her eye, blinding herself permanently. And now she says she's happier than ever. There's a new device in South Africa called Rapex. It's a tube with sharp barbs inside. Women insert this like a tampon, and let's just say anyone who ever tries an unconsensual act will be in a world of pain and have to go to the ER. A man from Queens spent 5 years in jail, not knowing that his bail was only $2.
What?
If you ever donated blood, that blood can be in somebody else's boner right now. Something to think about. The reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of the raw egg. It's because you shouldn't eat the raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying all over the field and pooping on the wheat. In 2006, Robert Turnery, a 5-year-old, called 911 after his mother collapsed. The operator hung up on him after asking to speak to an adult because she thought it was a prank. 3 hours later, he called again. The operator said, "Stop prank calling," and hung up. They then sent the police to his house to yell at him. When they got there, they found that his mother had died from a heart attack. In 2016, 11-year-old Elizabeth Gilreed went on an amusement park ride to have fun. Her hair then became caught, causing her to be scalped. The Iron Maiden was a horrible torture device, but it didn't kill you. People would be placed in there and the spikes would go through every part of their body, even their eyes. But the spikes weren't deep enough to kill you, so you would just stand in there, suffering. Should I do a part 5?
Whew.
Today I'll be telling you about the youngest murderers, starting off with Nevada Tan. Nevada Tan is the nickname of an 11-year-old girl who murdered her classmate. Her real identity is kept a secret. She had some sort of disagreement with a girl in her class, so during lunch break she brought the girl into an empty room and cut her throat with a knife. Afterwards, she went back to her classroom covered in bloodstains. Her classmates flew into a panic and her teacher called the police. She was arrested, and when the police asked her why she had done such a horrible thing, Nevada Tan said that the dead girl had posted messages on her website saying she was overweight and calling her a goody two-shoes. According to reports, Nevada Tan's website was based on the Japanese urban legend, the Red Room. Nevada Tan was sent to prison. She was probably released in 2013. Next, we have Jasmine Richardson. Jasmine was a normal 12-year-old girl from Alberta, Canada. She got involved with goth scene, started dressing in black and wearing garnish makeup. On the internet, Jasmine used the nickname Runaway Devil, and her profile said, "Welcome to my tragic end." She became an out-of-control tween, sneaking out, going to rock concerts without her parents' knowledge. She also had a boyfriend who was 23 years old. He often told people he was a 300-year-old werewolf. When her parents found out what she had been doing, they grounded her and forbid her from singing. She was really angry, so she convinced her boyfriend to come over and kill her parents. One night, while her parents were asleep, she let her boyfriend in the house. He stabbed her parents to death while she murdered her 8-year-old brother. Afterwards, they tried to flee, but the police found them. Jasmine was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Her boyfriend was given 3 life sentences. Since then, Jasmine has been released and has expressed remorse for her crimes. Lastly, we have Robert Thompson and John Venables. Robert and John were both 10 years old. One morning, they decided to ditch school and go to a shopping center. They got bored and decided to kidnap a little boy named James Bulger. They brought him into a deserted area where they threw bricks at him. Part 2 is already up.
They that young, man, making freaking bad decisions like that.
Go home when the sun's gone. There's improvement. Let's see, move your mouth around a little bit. Like, I feel like smile, maybe.
You good? That's an edit for sure.
You guys don't need to move a lot. Maybe just here.
Yeah, I think that's all we did last time. Yeah. Barely even like the chin and the upper lip. Yeah.
Just around here.
Is that for a movie or something? That blanket, man.
Big facts that will ruin your life. Baby chicks, while very sweet, are often grinded up. In many large factories, if they're baby roosters, they're just tossed into a grinder. Pretty gross. Did you know that in the United States alone, every year, around 2,500 people die from using right-handed equipment that were originally left-handed? Sucks to be left-handed. George Bush Sr. was the only man to survive after his plane was shot down in World War II by Japanese soldiers. Out of the 9 men that were cannibalized and eaten on by Japanese soldiers, Bush was somehow the only one to survive. Hopefully you like burgers because Inuit mothers actually suck the snot out of their baby's nose. Nasty. Did you know there's actually 200 corpses right now on Mount Everest? Due to the body's elevation, they're actually left up there and perfectly preserved to the extreme climate and temperatures. They're used as guide points for climbers and hikers. Comment and let me know which fact disturbed you the most.
Basically it's a graveyard, man. That's
This
the
is
best way to
without a
put
doubt
it.
the creepiest mugshot I've ever seen. This is 33-year-old Solomon Galligan. He is an S offender that tried to kidnap a little boy from an elementary school in Colorado. This entire ordeal happened last Friday, and he went up to multiple children. Before police arrived, he tried to grab the young boy and flee, but that was unsuccessful, so he just fled to begin with. He was later caught by police and charged with 1 count of kidnapping. As a result, the elementary school and the surrounding areas are increasing security and police presence. But bro, this mugshot is definitely the creepiest shit I've ever seen. There's not a single feeling of remorse or regret in those eyes. He's now being held on a $25,000 bond. He had a similar incident in 2012 and he failed to register as an offender. Now, luckily, the little boy that he tried to kidnap was unharmed. And this also happened while the kids were at recess. I'm not sure how this happened. I feel like when I was growing up in recess, all of the teachers would be watching us.
Yeah.
But they definitely need to step up security. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Movie bloopers that are better than the actual movie. In The Dark Knight, while Joker sits in a jail cell, he overhears Detective Gordon get promoted to commissioner. Naturally, the rest of his squad applauds him, but then they hear the Joker clapping in the background. The Joker's creepy clap wasn't in the script, but it fit the scene so well they kept it in. In the show Friends, Matthew Perry actually hits his head on a filing cabinet.
Please, just...
Well, this was a total accident, and Jennifer Aniston's reaction was completely genuine. In this scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark leans over to open the door, but Peter Parker hugs him instead. This wasn't in the script, but Tom Holland thought it would be funny, which led to Robert Downey Jr. improvising this line on the spot.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not.
Classic.
In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, in this scene, everything was supposed to fall off when Jim Carrey pulled the tablecloth. But it didn't go as planned, so he had to improvise. This wasn't in the script, but it was so funny they kept it in.
Records that will never be broken again. Number 1, the woman with the most children. Back in the 1800s, a Russian woman named Miscellaneous gave birth to 69 total children. She had 16 pairs of twins, 7 triplets, and 4 quadruplets. And no one has come close to matching that number since. Number 2, the most nuclear explosions ever survived. This is Tsutomu Namaguchi. He has survived 2 different nuclear explosions. Tsutomu was on a business trip when the first nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. After miraculously surviving that explosion, he returned to his hometown of Nagasaki just in time to witness the second atomic bombing. But again, he miraculously survived and lived till the age of 93.
That's rough.
Horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
Those are some creepy coincidences, man. Spider rain? I've never heard of something like that before, but I definitely don't want to experience that, man. Imagine you just walking outside, normal day, just see a whole bunch of freaking spiders coming down. You like, what in the world is this world coming to, man? How does something like that even happen?
If you see him while you're awake, run. So this story actually comes from a Reddit user who's a therapist. And this user had a patient who was coming in complaining of seeing Hatman at night. This patient would apparently wake up in the middle of the night to see Hatman standing at the foot of their bed, watching them sleep. And as a result, they were not really sleeping much. So the therapist prescribed some pretty heavy sleeping medication, and as a result, the patient starts getting a little better. But then one day, the patient comes in and just looks like they had seen a ghost. So the therapist asked them what was wrong, and they said that as they were getting in the car to come to therapy, they saw Hatman standing across the street during the day. This therapist had only ever heard of Hatman when it came to patients waking up in the middle of the night and seeing him, never when they were already awake doing things in the middle of the day. So the patient is terrified, but the therapist thinks this might be a side effect of the medication. It takes a little while to get used to. But that was the last time the patient ever came to see the therapist.
Man, is he real? Cap.
Scary facts that will blow your mind, Part 2. The Hoia Baciu forest is considered the most haunted forest in all of Romania. Hundreds of people have gone missing within these woods, among other things like screams, laughter, babies crying, people being attacked by unseen paranormal forces, strange balls of light, UFOs, and in the very center of the forest lies a clearing where no plant life will grow. It is believed that this spot is a portal to another dimension. What do you think? Like and follow for more.
Okay, that one, the most haunted freaking forest of Romania, man, where all those plants not growing and how they said it can be ported there. I definitely want to check up on that one because that sounds interesting, man. Like, no plants are going in that whole open area. That space is just like a freaking, look like a crop circle. What do you guys think? Is that a dimension to another
incident has
reality?
made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who's a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
She said it perfectly. No words needed on that clip. Everything to a T.
Here are 5 regular things that are illegal in North Korea. Number 1, wearing jeans. In North Korea, wearing jeans is a symbol of their enemy America. Number 2, turning off the radio. All houses come with a government-installed radio that makes announcements through the day. Number 3, practicing religion. Reading a Bible can get you publicly executed. Number 4, watching foreign films. Watching foreign films can get you executed or sent to a labor camp. And number 5, listening to foreign music. All music has to be Kim Jong-un approved.
You were taught that you probably
Never
still
gone to
believe.
North Korea.
Number 1, that cracking your knuckles will cause arthritis. While cracking your knuckles might sound and look damaging, it does not cause arthritis. That loud pop that you hear when you crack your knuckles is caused by bubbles bursting in your synovial fluid, and the bubbles pop when you pull the bones apart. Blood in your veins is blue. If you look down at your arm, you can probably see your veins and see they look blue. However, your blood is not actually blue in your veins. Blood is either red or dark red, but never blue. Your veins look blue because of your skin. Blue light does not penetrate human tissue as deeply as red light does, and as a result, veins that are close to the surface of the skin will be more likely to reflect blue light back to your eyes. You can hear the sound of the ocean in shells. This is a myth. The sound you hear when you put a shell against your ear has nothing to do with it being from the ocean. It's actually part of the background noise around you, just turned up a little bit by the shell. So if you're next to the ocean, the shell picks up the sound of the ocean, the alpha wolf. There's actually no such thing as an alpha wolf. This idea was brought about in a paper from the 1970s, but the author later said in a paper that he rejected the idea of an alpha wolf. While it's true that multiple wolves who share a small space in captivity will develop alpha and beta-like hierarchies, wild wolves behave nothing like this.
In the wild, a wolf pack is typically formed by monogamous parents and their puppies, and the wolf pack is basically a tightly knit family consisting of parents or breeders and their offspring, not an alpha and beta.
We need to talk about...
Hey man, those facts, those will blow my freaking reality wide open, man. I've always, when you used to put a shell up to your ear, they always used to say that like you were here in the ocean. That's another piece about your hood. Gone. And I remember seeing freaking blue veins, yeah. I remember when I was a kid sometimes I would see blue. I'm like, is our blood blue? I said, how come when we bleed it's never blue? So I learned that very early on, man, but we learning out here today. I like that.
Sex tourism. So if you don't understand what this is the practice of elderly men and women from America or other countries traveling to more undeveloped countries where the ages of consent are much lower, and then purchasing children to do things with. These are just some of the men who have been caught on camera doing these things. And this opens up a disturbing thought. I mean, you think you know somebody, but what are they doing in these foreign countries? Because laws were passed in the 2000s that outlawed this practice, meaning that if you committed an act with a child in a foreign country, the United States government can still prosecute you. But there was a great documentary made by Chris Hansen where they followed a wealthy American doctor over, I think it was in the Philippines, one of those countries, and caught him in the act of purchasing a child. And then they followed him back to the United States where he had a full family, he ran a successful practice, and he was then turned over to the authorities. But all you have to do is look at this and the low ages of consent in so many different countries. And just recently, a North Dakota lawmaker was caught doing this in the Czech Republic. So how many children have to be hurt before more action is taken against this whole thing? Every single year, the statistics show that over 1 million children are abused as a part of this system. 1 million children. Imagine a group of 1 million children, all of their lives completely changed forever, every single year, every year. And these sick bastards get away with it time and time again. Now, I don't know what I can necessarily do to stop this from happening, but I can inform people and try to get these videos out because this is incredibly disturbing stuff. And I'm going to talk more about this guy in my next TikTok.
Curtain number 1.
Trying to find a loophole. Disgusting.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like?
How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 75% of people have a deviated septum, and this is a condition in which the bone and cartilage that divide the nose in half are crooked, making one nasal passage smaller than the other, and it's known to cause nosebleeds, problems breathing, or loud breathing when you're sleeping. Less than 1% of people have an extra finger crease, and it's also called camptodactyly, and it's just when you have an extra little ridge on your fingers, and it is most common on your pinky.
Ooh.
Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's just scar tissue that forms in your eye. And it's known to cause blurred or distorted vision. And it's caused when the vitreous, which is the gel-like part of your eye, starts to pull away from the retina. Less than 1% of people can hear colors or see sounds. For example, this could happen as soon as someone hears a sound, they automatically see the color red, or as soon as they read a word, a certain color pops into their mind. About 33% of people experience motion sickness, and this 33% are highly susceptible to motion sickness, while the rest just experience it in extreme conditions. And it's caused when your brain starts to get signals from your body that it's moving, but they're mismatched and don't match up.
Here's some Disney Channel stars that went to...
Do you have any of those? Or is any of the Seeker's bodies weird, man? Does they have that extra, we said, I guess cartilage on your pinky or eyeball scars? I didn't even know an eyeball could get a scar.
to jail, but each time the crime gets worse. Starting off, Mitchell Musso, who played Oliver Oken in Hannah Montana, was pulled over in 2011 for driving under the influence. He was only 20 at the time and was arrested and released on bail. Because of this, his character was written out of Pair of Kings and his show Prank Stars was canceled. Next up, Adam Hicks, who played Luther on Zeke and Luther and had a starring role in Lemonade Mouth, was arrested a couple times, but most recently for an armed robbery with his girlfriend. His sentencing was delayed multiple times due to mental health evaluations and was eventually given a 5-year sentence. sentence. But he's now currently on parole and making music on TikTok. Moving on, Lindsay Lohan was Disney's golden child in the early 2000s, starring in iconic movies such as The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Mean Girls, before getting into trouble with the law. She's been arrested for driving under the influence, drug possession, violating her probation, a theft charge, and has even had a bench warrant out for her arrest. And finally, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, was arrested and charged for vehicle manslaughter after killing a 21-year-old girl while drunk driving. When they tested his blood alcohol, it was 3 times the legal limit. He was originally given a 5-year sentence, 2 years of probation, and 350 hours of community service, but ended up only serving 1 year due to his work with prison-based theater groups that performed in jails, churches, and schools to highlight the consequences of drug abuse.
After breaking up in the 50s,
Childhood.
these 2 high school sweethearts are now newlyweds at 82 and 85. Eddie and Caroline dated for years in high school, and they spent so much time together that Caroline was known as Eddie's girl around their Nashville town. And when Eddie graduated a few years before Caroline, she had hoped for his class ring as a sign of commitment, but Eddie wasn't ready, and he was about to leave their hometown for the ROTC program at the University of Tennessee when he dropped her off at her house one evening in 1959 without giving her a class ring and with no mention of the future. Caroline knew that their relationship was over. She says that she recalls running into her house and crying for that entire night. And then the 2 went on to live completely separate lives, including Caroline winning Miss Nashville the same year that Eddie left. In 1961, they both married other people and shortly thereafter had children and raised families. Eddie spent 21 years as a pilot in the Air Force, and Caroline became an interior designer and an author. But in 2001, Caroline lost her husband, and in 2021, Eddie lost his wife. A year later, in 2022, Eddie felt compelled to reach out to Caroline, and he says he called 9 times before she answered, but when she did, the spark was still there. With 6 decades of catching up to do, they met back up in Nashville, and just 3 months later, Eddie asked her to marry him. He wanted to get her a traditional engagement ring, but she said that all she wanted was his high school class ring, just like all those years ago. Now, as newlyweds in their 80s, they say that they feel just like kids again. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.
It's true love. Really, works through. They found each other, man, after all that time. Can you even imagine that, living separate lives? You come back and marry your first love. That was a great story. We need something positive every day.
Mason TV was able to trick Spotify into sending him Harry Styles' 1 billion streams plaque, so he decided to put it to good use. He created a TikTok account with the username SecretSue94, later changed to Sue Manella, playing on Harry Styles' nickname Sue, known within his fandom. He created multiple vines Harry made in 2013, adding subtle clues like a drawn-on cross tattoo to make it seem more authentic, and even getting pink carpet for his stairs to match Harry's stairs. He developed a multiverse of fake TikTok accounts for Harry's friends to lend credibility to the main account. He went to great lengths, including dressing up as Harry, painting his nails, and having fake paparazzi photos taken to show Harry with a Spotify plaque and using TikTok on his phone, which helped him spread the belief in the account. Overnight, fans all over social media and even major media outlets were speculating about its authenticity. Millions of people talking about the account led it to going viral and amassing over 600,000 followers.
This man left his 2-year-old toddler in a hot car while he went to go play video games. Not only is this case super disturbing because of what he was doing while his 2-year-old daughter was strapped in this hot boiling car, but apparently he's done this so many times before. It all happened on July 9th when 37-year-old Christopher Schultz arrived home at 12:50 and his daughter was strapped into her car seat and she was sleeping, so he decided to leave her in there because he did not want to wake her up, and he had left the AC on as well. Christopher's wife Erica arrived home at 4 p.m. from work and she found their 2-year-old daughter still strapped in the car. At this point, this poor little girl was already gone, and when paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could really do. Now, while Christopher claims that the AC was on, it turns out that it actually turned off only 30 minutes after he left to go inside. This means that she was left in this 180-degree boiling car for about 2.5 hours. At first, Christopher lied and said that he had left her in there for about 30 to 45 minutes and had checked up on her multiple times, but after they investigated and saw home surveillance footage of a neighbor, they noticed that she was actually in there for about 3 hours.
How long was she sleeping in the car out there?
I want to say it was no more than 30-45 minutes. And I don't think their air was off that entire time. I think there was a time in between. I checked on her last. It was still running. She was still sleeping. And then when I went back out, the car was off.
Like I said, he's done this so many times before, according to his other daughters. And his wife also sent him a text message saying, I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? But what I also found so weird is that his wife also sided with him, and she got really upset when police arrested Christopher. I don't understand how she has any type of sympathy for this man who just took your baby's life because he was playing video games. He was warned multiple times about this, so there is no excuse. Christopher was originally charged with 2nd degree M, but then it was changed to 1st degree, and he pleaded not guilty. If he gets convicted, he does face life in prison.
This pedophile senator
for some video
North Dakota
games.
is one of the most disturbed people I've ever researched. This is all coming out right now in the news, so let's talk about it. Ray Holmberg was born in 1944, and he was first elected to the North Dakota Senate as a Republican in 1976. He ended up serving as a senator for decades, and he became one of the longest serving senators in United States history. But behind the scenes, Ray was carrying out the most demonic activities you can imagine. The first allegations against him came out in 2020, when a man named Canton Todd came out and said that Ray had sexually assaulted him in 2010. You can read some of his tweet there. Canton provided evidence of where he was assaulted, and investigators were actually able to show that that apartment was indeed owned by the senator. And they were also able to confirm that the senator was seen with that guy around the same time. But nothing ever came out of this. Then in 2022, a huge scandal erupted. It turns out Ray Holmberg had shared 72 text messages with a child predator inside of prison. So this guy was sentenced for CP production and distribution. And while he was in prison, Ray Holmberg texted him 72 times. Now obviously people were asking, what were these texts about? Well, some of the texts that were eventually recovered showed Holmberg asking this convicted predator if he could meet up with his 19 to 20-year-old boyfriend to give him a massage. Holmberg has claimed in the news that these text messages were just about some lawn care, that this pedophile just happened to be redoing his lawn and that's what he was texting him about. And when he was pressed by members of the press, he stated the messages were just simply gone. I don't understand this. In most cases, the police can immediately go back and retrieve any text messages from criminals, so why haven't they done this yet with this guy? But this only gets significantly worse. Just 2 days ago, Ray Holmberg pled guilty to child sex tourism. If you're confused on what that means, this means that Ray, while he was a United States Senator, was traveling overseas to engage in acts with minors. Prosecutors in the case alleged that he traveled 14 times to Prague in the Czech Republic between the years 2011 and 2021 to pay to engage in acts with minors. And even more disturbingly, a number of these trips were state trips. So that means that the United States government was paying for him to go over to the Czech Republic. And he was there on an official capacity. So he definitely did this, and when this all came out, it brought up the history of CP charges that were also leveled at him in the past. That's right, they also discovered that between 2012 and 2013, Ray, who was a United States Senator at the time, was using the alias Sean Evans online to, quote, convince a child to send him sexually explicit images. AKA, this freak was pretending to be a child online to receive CP from a child. So with all of this, the sexual assault, the traveling to a country to engage in acts with minors, the CP, all of that, you would imagine this guy would go away for a long time, right? These are serious, terrible charges. Well, no. Because he pled guilty, he's going to get a sweetheart deal. That means that the Department of Justice dropped the CP charges against him, and the judge is believed to, quote, recommend the low end of the sentencing guideline range. His lawyers have said they expect him to get 3 to 4 years in prison. So for molesting multiple young boys, for convincing a child to send him graphic material, for sexually assaulting a man, for being in contact with a child predator who probably sent him other stuff that got deleted, this guy is going to get 3 to 4 years in prison. Gotta love American justice, right? If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and creeps like this, listen to my new podcast, The Conspiracy Files. You can either watch it on YouTube or you can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in a few weeks, we're going to be doing an episode about pedophile members of Congress and the Senate, and it's really, really disturbing stuff. This guy's definitely going in there.
Reality glitches caught on
Reality
camera.
glitches caught on camera.
This ring. In a box, I'm like, oh shit, my ring fell off. No, it didn't. It's the same. I'm shaking. It's so weird.
Whoa.
No.
Okay.
My fear's happening. My fear's happening of not being able to get to my car in a parking garage. There's my car. Yep, okay. If I go down that way, that brings me down. So, I'm walking up. But when I round the corner, nothing.
Can somebody please explain to me how
Maybe she was on a different level. I'm guessing that can explain it. That's the only way I can explain that because we just saw.
I'm here doing my little thing, making TikToks. I'm looking on my desk and I see this. What the hell is this? What is this? Because it looks like it's my nails, right? Girl, I've got all my nails. And I want to specify, this is the first time I have ever had this design.
So here's another rather
And it just fell out of the sky out of nowhere.
It's famous for mummies, not just any mummies, incredibly naturally well-preserved mummies. Turns out you had to pay a tax on burial plots or your final resting place, whether that be in tunnels or catacombs under the city. And if nobody paid up for you, you were out. What happened was the grave diggers found out if they made a display of these mummies, they could make a bit of money. They could charge for people to come through. People would even take bits of the bodies as souvenirs. It was the original side hustle. Now it's gone legit, and there's actually a museum housing the mummies. The mysterious thing is why they didn't decompose. Could it be a strange energy source under Guanajuato? Well, people think it was the richness of the soil or the incredibly dry air that made them somehow self-embalm. But it is a little bit of a mystery. Just like the blob, it gets curiouser and curiouser.
Okay.
I'll see you in the comments. Take care.
You definitely saw me. I saw that energy spiraling, man. Oh, the map that was showing, so it looks like there was definitely some energy there. I don't know what. I saw that in the mirror. What are those kids doing? Are they practicing for like a drill or something? That was a damn skin roll. Were they on the kids? What the? What the hell is that fish doing? It's like regurgitating freaking fish eating fish. I mean, that's not the first time I heard of it, but that was kind of crazy. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate your support. You guys gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.